I spent some time last evening with Bill Blymiller. I told him, and I'll say it to the world, I've been in, 7 congregations, and I've latched on to friends in every one of them. Only a handful have been brothers and sisters to me, to Doak, not the preacher. And Bill is one of those. Just 2 years here. But we met about every morning at McDonald's up there on 56 and Fowler. And we solved the world's problems. And those of you who know Bill know he's a hard nut. So one Sunday I looked over there and he's taking notes. The preacher don't like to see anybody taking notes. Never. And it touched me so then and right now that he thought I was saying something worth writing down and thinking about a little bit more. Problem was I hadn't written it down, so I didn't know what I really had said. My Newton, New Jersey had some beautiful people, only, 20, 40 of us showed up at any one time. And several college professors. And one of them he and I could have done a stand-up act. I would have been his second banana. And I kept apologizing for roaming. He said because he was like that from the congregation. It gets fun when you go roaming, Because what do we do here, I hope, is invite you to think and wonder and write your own sermon. I'm not here to give you instructions. I'm here to provoke you. Or maybe inspire you. Bill Blymiller is dying. He has hospice care. Harriet, he don't want to see too many people, But I took privilege as pastor and Doak to just walk up. Because basically couldn't get them. So if you got a card, a letter, a note, get it off now, tomorrow, tonight. We want to celebrate a life soon. And tomorrow my son would have been dead a year in Cincinnati, James Adam. So there's darkness in the sunshine. Well, in 1848, on this date, Henry David Thoreau went down to the Lyceum in Concord and laid out a protest on civil disobedience that inspired Gandhi, King, another fellow named Ballou, you don't know about him. He didn't get the publicity, but he was a true pacifist. Universalist church fired him. People ran him out of town. But he spoke truth to power. We got a sister up in Washington, looks like my mama on a good day, who told the emperor what he thought. She thought. He thought. They thought. That justice will prevail, and mercy is the example of nobility. And greed don't matter, and there ain't no foreigners. See, I'm not as graceful as she is. But I know enough science and know enough that Henry David Thoreau and all of our ancestors, our legacy in places like this, and places that we drove about, the good guys and gals, because we got to keep the institution intact. We've got to keep the oasis open. The market's got to be here so we can get the traffic. But we can never compromise truth. If we're in a pile of doo-doo, we got to figure out how to make fertilizer. It's a great joke about that, but I can't remember it, so I won't do it. Try to do it. See, we stand in the shadow of Jesus and all those protesters who says right is right and life is precious. And we got traditions and we got ways of doing things because of where we were born and when we were born. But we're just trying to speak and celebrate that we're okay and we're related to the forever. And death is just part of getting to the next adventure. Man. And I'm not sure Bill would like that today. He wouldn't have 12 years ago. But I bet $1 to a donut he knows it right now. Because many of us in this room know it right now. It's nearly like you get wise enough to live and it's time to go. Anybody recognize that? You get wise enough to live and it's time to go. But we can learn and we can be sanctuary and oasis. So Waldo Emerson went out to see his friend David, who was in the jail because he wouldn't pay his taxes because he said it was going to the war effort. Because we were expanding slave territory in the Southwest under James K. Polk of Tennessee. A week later, Winfield Scott and Zachary Taylor would whip them, and they forced a peace treaty on them and took what we wanted. History has a memory. History has a memory. It's all on the wheel. So in this darkness, thank goodness the sun's shining today. Best sermon illustration around. But wasn't it tough a few days ago? Wasn't it tough last week? Turn off the radio and listen to some music. Watch the greenery stay green in Tampa, Florida. And celebrate the life that we share. And the precious ones that come by and say, life bless you. I bless you. Let's do it now, kids. Let's do it now. Oh, and if any of you really feel like you're that young, there's a kiddie corner over there. The religious education folks got together the other day, decided that might be a good idea. So if I get boring or it gets tedious, go over there and color or make something, okay? I'm serious. I don't think I want to compete with dogs or cats, but, if you want to knit or whatever you need to do. Dear friend yesterday said, sometimes I close my eyes, Doak. I'm not listening to you. I'm just focusing. Okay, I can talk all afternoon. I shouldn't do that. Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, big name droppers. But there were a lot of them, we don't know their names. It's a wonderful book about this day in Unitarian Universalist history. Get it from the UUA bookstore. It's revelatory. I mean, my friend I know the fellow who wrote it back in the day, he did a lot of research. We got big obligations, team. We got proud ancestors saying, what are you doing for life today? God bless us all. Let's take a moment or two in silent reflection to offer up whatever you need. I love our stone ritual. I think it's beautiful. It's wonderful. And I see how meaningful it is to you. Saw one of our little buddies last Sunday upstairs because I was kibitzing. He went to that one up there with his little boots that light up. I just love that. And his daddy knelt down with him and explained to him what we were doing. We had a great program. Loved the program, but I met Lord up there. Daddy taking the time to explain the fact that there's reverence in the world. And we acknowledge the mystery and the power that's in this place and in love. So let's take a time of silence to remember Bill, our lost ones. Maybe say hi to them or think about what you're going to do the rest of the week for yourself and for the world. Watch out for the wonder. Claim the blessings. And don't let the buzzards get you down. Come on up, Darrell. Darrell Holcomb, Reverend Darrell Holcomb, is a friend of mine, newly acquired. He's a smart aleck I told you about. He's had we talked last week, and I said I got this idea about pirate theology, so I talked him into writing something. We compared notes of preaching, and he likes the wonderful organized type. I like another style. Now, I try to put the two together, but I'm old and I don't care anymore, and I'm just going to do it my way. But he's got poetry in his soul, so do it. Go ahead.
This is probably not formal enough, but can we give it up for our pastor, Doak? My name is Reverend D. If you're dealing with different sight abilities, I am 6'5", probably 190-something pounds, a black man, and I don't have any hair because it doesn't grow in certain parts of my head after age, but great. I'm loving it. I have the responsibility to have a reading with you on pirate theology. My request is that you be, meditate, and hear with me. Pirate theology, a harsh reading of morals, mayhem, and the mirage of righteousness. Picture this: a wooden deck slick with seawater and greed, sails stretched taut against screaming wind, and the air alive with the rank perfume of salt, sweat, and sin. A crew of misfits, murderers, thieves, dreamers, and drunks huddled beneath the black flag bearing the leering skull of rebellion. These are the pirates. And this is their theology, or rather their mythos. Pirate theology, you say, you might wonder. The very phrase feels like a cannonball lodged in the gullet of reason. You see, theology for some belongs to the cathedrals, to prayers whispered in the dark, to dusty tombs reciting the virtues of saints. Pirates belong to rum-soaked revelries, treasure maps scrawled in blood, and the art of privilege. But we are here today. We've been tasked with peeling back the tattered curtain of romanticism to reveal the splintered, rotting truth. Pirate Code. The Pirate Code murmured in hushed tones as though it were the gospel memorialized in tales of during do and Hollywood spectacle. Were these robbers moral? A moral pirate is an oxymoron wrapped in a paradox to some. Yet within their floating dens of iniquity, a strange camaraderie brewed. They forbade stealing from one another, though mind you, robbing the innocent was fair game. They condemned laziness because every man needed to pull his own weight when death loomed over the boat. Women were ostensibly protected though this rule was often ignored, even as it was enforced. But morality, that slippery eel of a word. Perhaps the pirates had their own version. Raw, jagged, and utterly self-serving. If you were loyal to your crew, you were safe. If you betray them, you find yourself lashed to the mast or flung into the briny abyss. Morality, it seems, was transactional, matter of practicality dressed in the rags of principles. Pirates were, by and large, men of their time, raised in societies where the church loomed large. Its shadows stretched across the continents. They were baptized and catechized and sent to the sea with prayers pinned to their hearts. And yet aboard the ships, religion twisted into something else entirely. Some held close to the faith of their ancestors, practicing rituals and crossing themselves before the battle, but others spent time praying for calm seas, and then some others drank until defilement, spitting at the heavens, even as they feared the wrath of God. The truth, y'all, is contradictory as the tides. Superstition ruled the waves, integrating seamlessly with religion. A black hat aboard could mean a death. A sailor whistling on the deck might summon a storm. Was this faith, or was it fear? Was it simply the desperate grasping of men who knew their lives hung by the thinnest of threads? What is the parallel of America? Now let us leave the crackling timbers of the pirate ship and step into the asphalt jungles of the modern day America. For if pirate theology is to be dragged into this sanctuary, we must confront its contemporary counterpart. And is America really great? What is America if not a nation built on plunder? Its streets paved with the gold of stolen lands, its wealth hoarded in the treasure chest carved from the backs of the oppressed. And yet, like the pirates of old, America tells itself a different story. It is the land of the free, the home of the brave, and the beacon of the liberty shining across the seas. But beneath the flag, y'all, a question festers. What is the cost of freedom? Whose backs have borne the weight of this liberty so that we can be free? The parallels are almost too obvious. Pirates claimed loyalty to their crew just as America claims loyalty to its citizens. But what of those outside the crew? What about the marginalized? What about the exiled? What about the oppressed? Like the pirates' victims, we are left to plunder the wreckage, and our cries are swallowed by the warring and the crying of the waves. Yet amid the chaos and the massacre, a strange beauty emerges. Pirates, for all their sins, were insurgents. They defied empires that sought to control them, carving out a space where they could live and die only on their own terms. There is something profoundly spiritual in understanding this defiance. It speaks to the human yearning for freedom, for autonomy, for the right to write one's own story. Y'all pretend it's church. Shout amen. And so while we may condemn the pirates for their crimes, we cannot deny the spark of rebellion that still burns in us all. So here we stand at the edge of the plank, peering into the depths of what pirate theology really is. And our own Reverend Doak is prepared to give us an awesome sermon and talking about its illustrations. But y'all, it's a story of contradictions, of laughter and lament, of brutality, of beauty. It is a mirror held up to the world, reflecting both the horrors we create and the hope that we cling to. And the waves rise us to meet us again. Here's the final question. What kind of pirate are you? Are you the kind of hoard your own treasure, or the kind who shares them? kind that silence dissent, or the kind who dares to question the captain? The answers, my friend, are not in the articles. No. In the midst of America. Sorry, it's not locked there. But it's in the courage to pull back the curtain and to see the real truth. Ashe, amen. May it be so.
Thank you, sir. We are caught in the middle of a dilemma. We are faced with an oppressor regime, it appears. My minister colleagues across the country, we have a Facebook, a group. You would have thought we had a date to die tomorrow. From the hullabaloo that we are talking, my minister colleague friends and I, talking about organizing for resistance, worrying about being invaded, worrying about what the new authoritarianism will bring. Reading our history of Italy, Germany, America, New Jersey. My county I served in was the hotbed of 1930s American Nazism. The building I served and my congregation lives in, was built to be a cover for the local Klan. Newton, New Jersey. Once upon a time, you could probably have seen Manhattan. The rich and the powerful. Homes, Didn't see them in the summer. When the winter came, you saw them. Rich folk. Thousands had a camp within 20 miles of the little village I lived in. So we're all scared. What's going on? Have we been asleep? Pirate theology is attempting to be a metaphor. What do you do when you're closed out of making money, of surviving? The rich have the money. What did the bank robber say? Why do you rob banks? It's because that's where the money is. You go after the galleons of the Spanish who are raping South America and bringing hoards of gold that made Spain the greatest power in the world. We've got my ancestors, the Germans, the Celts, the English, the Irish, and Scots, wanting a little of the action. And a red-headed queen and a couple of sea dogs that didn't care brought the money to her. It's all about, I know, I don't have a coherent thought in this. Too coherent. But I think you might get the drift. What do you do in a totalitarian state? Bonhoeffer tried to kill Hitler. You'd think Bonhoeffer was a saint. Theodore Parker, our revered revolutionary in the 1840s, who gave us transcendentalism of power that resonated around the world, that Abraham Lincoln stole his speeches from, his sermon lines. He raised guns for Kansas abolitionists. See, the church and the church people on the right side of history have been knee-deep into revolution and dissent. If you've got one more great trip that you can afford, I highly recommend you skip London and go directly to Manchester to go over to Nottingham. That's where Robin Hood lived. Nottingham is a hard, beautiful sandstone mountain with 85 caves in it. William the Conqueror sent a bunch of folks up there, a brigade, unit, to fortify the mountain. And you better be able to walk and climb because you do that. But Robin Hood was a myth based on a hope, based on a longing. Captain Kidd, Blackbeard, I don't care who you... Bonnie, there were women too, guys. Let me get some parameters here. Everybody was welcome if you take the oath. Everybody was welcome. Whore, thief, murderer, we didn't care. Now, how many places can you go where everybody accepts you? Except here. See? And they made a pact. And they said, we're not going to take the line. We're not going to believe that grace has given all these people wealth because they stole it from somebody else. Now, is that immoral? What do you do in a system where you can't make a living? Where you can't get a job? I'm watching Rome on HBO. That's my research for my ministry right now. I highly recommend it to you because there's a parallel of what happened in the period of Caesar and Augustus and Brutus and Mark Antony. And they have glimmers of the religious practices. See, it's just a change of product and a change of characters. The plot line is always there. We got to placate a God. We got to do something to earn our place in the world. Bull hockey. It's given to you by your birth. And Pilate said, I'm as good as you are. And I got steel in my backbone and fists and sabers, and you tell me you're better than me. Now that's animal. We are animals. We're reptiles covered and hopefully not covered. We're given an opportunity to grow a soul. To conquer the reptile and move into a creative activity that can save us all. I had a query this morning in my mind. Did Jesus ever, say, come on, Bubba. You want some of me? Come on in. No. And I rode a donkey into Jerusalem. What a revolutionary act that was. Because the good people were waiting on the king, David's descendant, to come with sword and rid us of this corrupt foreign regime. And Jesus and the boys came in town on a donkey, saying, I'm here. And I'll bring you good news. He didn't say this. I'm writing for him today because I don't quote the Bible very well. But I know what it means. I know that through all the corruptions of all the generations of people trying to have power over folks like you, there's a gem there that said love conquers all. And God is love. Come to the table. Share with me the bounty. See, that's nonsense, right? You think power's going to get us out of this mess? Do you think our ancestors expected us to end life when they fought so hard to make it for us? We are survivors. We're the best that is. We're state of the art. And we're still flawed. So we have to follow a dream. Follow a captain. Get on the vessel. Hit the waves. And do what Durrell so eloquently said. Get to the heart of the matter. The heart of the matter, let's be true to one another. Let's be relational. Let's invite the world to be relational. We ain't going to get out of this alive. You want to go to heaven? You go to heaven, by George. I am. And I'm going to see Adam and Daddy and Grandmother. See, that's my power. I'm not saying you have to do that. But there's an opportunity with your creativity, your imagination, your brain to look at history and know life survives. We had a very deep conversation yesterday in my seminar here. And I have the notion that coming from that life will not be defeated. The question is, are we able to engineer it so that it's recognizable? That your and my memory is not lost in the future. That's our eternal life. My great-granddaddy was 5 years old when Henry David Thoreau said the truth to the world. And then he got it published. Well, he was out in Tennessee. What do you have to do with Thoreau? Thoreau was a cousin. Your cousin. Isn't it true that there's a little black woman in Africa that was all our grandmamas? Didn't I hear that somewhere? Where did we go wrong? We went wrong because we were more scared than we were courageous. That everything told us not to, our logic told us to be scared of the enemy. The enemy. Who in the heck is my enemy? You got enemies? The United States have enemies? Everybody knows the story, I hope, of the Christmas in the trenches. The Germans and the Brits and Americans. I don't think Americans were in that story, but it was true. Middle of war, they've been killing one another. They have a balls toss for Christmas. It's Christmas night. Germans started singing Holy Night. Americans hear it. End up playing soccer in the moonlight. Because they were brothers. They were brothers. They were kinfolk. We cannot let our leaders lie to us and manipulate us. And they will for a while. Look at what our black brothers and sisters have had to do for 400 years. But by God, they survived, didn't they? And they gave us king. And he borrowed from a Bostonian aristocrat. And he made and created a message and an image that can save us all. And I'm going to be a pirate. I ain't got my tattoo I showed you. I ain't got an anchor yet, but I know where the anchor is. The old Universalists used to use that as a symbol. Because an anchor keeps you safe in the water, in the storms, in the waves. Drop that anchor. Drop that anchor and know that life is a blessing, and you are. So don't be mean and don't be regretful, because these suckers are going to kill themselves. They're going to die just like me and you die. They ain't got nothing on us, and they can't do anything we don't let them do to us. Might hurt, but I don't know how brave I'm going to be out there. I may plead conscientious objector, but let's not. I have no good ending, but I will end. Gahil Gibran wrote this. I didn't know he wrote this. Gahil Gibran was a prophet, sort of the 20s and 30s of I guess it'd be our grandparents' generation. And my great uncle gave me the book, The Prophet, when I went off to seminary in 1975. And he was a small town merchant. And it was a used one. He had read it. He was 13 years old when he left school. Jesus was not sent here to teach the people to build magnificent churches and temples amidst the cold, wretched huts and dismal hovels. He came to make the human heart a temple, and the soul an altar, and the mind a priest. May it be so. Oh, I'm selling these. Told you I was going to get me a leader jet. $15 for the Ministerial Education Fund and their Ministerial Discretionary Fund. And they're a limited edition. Thank you.